Hey everyone, Rob here, and I have some updates coming out of the Meteorological Society or slash agency in Iceland. They actually just released this only a few minutes ago, and they said that the upheaval and the land rise that began around Svartsengi in October is not over, and I reported on this yesterday as well. The land continues to rise at the same rate as the last few days, while magma continues to accumulate in the area, and there is still a chance of another magma flow that could end in an eruption. Now, if a magma run occurs, it's most likely the magma will run back into the magma tunnel that formed on November 10th, and that the most likely source of an eruption is north of Grindavik towards Hagafell in the area of Sundhjúkskíkja. It's a hard word to say. Now, nothing can be said about when the next, magma run's going to happen, and it could start any moment, and that's in Icelandic up at the top of this map here. Timing uncertainty is very high, and a magma eruption could occur in the next few days or possibly months away. And again, the warning is in Icelandic. Now, seismic activity has remained fairly steady for the last few days, and the biggest earthquake recorded is 2.3 in magnitude. But most of the earthquakes are around 1, and there's been about a total of 30 very recently. Now, a new hazard assessment map, which is what we are looking at right now, and we can see, zoomed in a little bit, has been published today, and the map shows an assessment of existing hazards and the new hazards that could arise at a short notice within this designated area. Now, all of these hazards are only assessed within these areas, but of course, hazards and danger areas may lurk outside of them. Conditions inside and outside the areas are subject to change at short notice. And if we take a look at a previous map that they had, we can see that they have, narrowed in on specific areas. We can see Grindavik is still a bit of a concern, but it's still this middle section here around Hagafell, which I just mentioned, and this sort of Svartsengi area. So this is the area that they are the most concerned about some activity happening around, which is similar to what we've seen previously, but we are sort of opening up sort of these other areas around it, which is, of course, good news. Now, talking about Grindavik, at a meeting of the Town Council of Grindavik, and they actually held it in Reykjavik City Hall because, the town's kind of closed off. It was agreed to postpone some repairs of certain faults and cracks in the town. And you can see one of them here, and this is from mbl.is. Now, the idea is to preserve them and make them sort of a memorial to the natural disasters of the town. Evacuating a town is not really something that's common in Iceland, so they're taking a look at this. The town's council's meeting type statement states that the project needs to be looked at in the future. That is, what cracks and holes they're going to be keeping and what ones they're going to fill in. Now, they're looking at keeping it in order to promote tourism to the area and having these cracks as a tourist destination. They said, and I quote, "This is a historical event that has taken place and we need to preserve some of it. We need to look into it with professionals, whether we will have any memorials for this event. Foreign tourists are being taken care of, as are Icelanders. You can look to the Westman Islands and see what was done there." And that was from Helga Dis Jakobsdóttir, who is the vice chair of the Grindavik Town Council. And when she's talking about the Westman Islands, what they did is they preserved houses in their entirety that were covered in the lava field, and they excavated it, and you can go into a museum and see all of that. So they're looking at, is this something that the town of Grindavik wants to do? Should people be allowed to go back? As of right now, there's no word on when people are going to be back in their, in their homes. We could see some of the news is here. Now, looking at Iceland as a whole, again, since midnight, there have been quite a few, earthquakes that have hit the Reykjanes Peninsula. Not a huge amount by the standards that we've looked at in the past few weeks. If we take a look at the area, I'm just scroll there. We can see all of these dots. We can see down here the chart, which shows you the frequency and the magnitude of these earthquakes. You can see a couple of them just squeezing by above 2, but nothing is hitting 3, which is why we do not have any of these green stars on there. Now, there is this situation on the Reykjanes Peninsula, and the Meteorological his office is saying that's mostly unchanged as it has been in the last few weeks. We had this big burst around November 10th, and then it's kind of settled down since then. There's, of course, though, and this is a big island, activity going on in, if we can go over to the right area. It's always the hardest part to get there. It is, I don't want to say it's in the south. Yeah, Vatnajökull. Here we go. So there has been, it's always fun trying to find it. In the Vatnajökull area, there have been some increase in seismic activity in Barbunga and Grimsvatn. And we've talked about Grimsvatn before. They're saying it's not really out of the ordinary since there's often some type of seismic activity in those areas, but it is definitely worth mentioning because this area has been relatively quiet in the past few weeks. Now, a 2.8 magnitude earthquake hit near Grimsvatn about 7 o'clock yesterday evening, and it was the second earthquake to hit Vatnajökull yesterday, but then a 3.1 magnitude earthquake hit Barbunga. I'm terribly butchering that name, shortly after midnight yesterday, and then an earthquake at Grimsvatn at 3.1, northeast of Grimsvatn occurred just after 6 p.m. So we are kind of seeing these over here. Definitely something that they're keeping an eye on. I mean, we can see here, if we go to 3 or higher, you can see there's one here, and the depth is 2.2 kilometers. I could just translate this whole thing for everyone because you can't see it. So there you go. So you have the time. Well, this one here was midnight that we're looking at, 3.1, and we can see 4.5 kilometers northeast of Barbunga. So that's all the news on earthquakes. Not a huge amount to report on, but of course it is interesting that they're going to look at preserving some of this sort of destruction in the town of Grindavik, and of course the new hazard map. Some people in previous comments have asked, is it safe to come to Iceland? Is it okay? Is it, should they cancel their flight? And to all of these questions, I say strongly no. Things are settling down. But of course, Iceland is a very, lots of earthquakes, and it's a very volcanic country overall. And I believe it's one of the most volcanic and active volcanic countries in the world. If I'm wrong, put it in the comments. But do not cancel your flights. I mean, the area that is currently shaking and at risk, although somewhat close to the airport, it should not disrupt your flights the way it is currently. Now, you can't say never, which is why I say should not. So you don't need to go canceling your flights. There's always the chance of something erupting. I mean, who knows, one of these other earthquakes or other volcanoes, as there's a ton of them, they could open up. You can see here is a map. All these green triangles are different volcanoes in Iceland, and they are active. You can see here, active volcano, but there's no indication of an upcoming eruption. Of course, there is this one down here by the airport, but any of these can kind of wake up at any moment, and people still come to Iceland. It's still safe to come here. So, yeah, as I said, my mom's going to come in the new year. She's not canceling her flight. I think it's going to be just fine. So, yeah, that's it. Not to worry. Come to Iceland. Lots of stuff to see. Northern Lights are good. Weather's been fantastic. No snow yet. So if you're looking to ski or snowboard, you got to wait for that. But that's it for today. I will definitely keep you updated over the weekend should anything change. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.